to this Friday's episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Rohde, joined alongside my good friend and co-host Tony Cepeda. Happy Friday, final game of the season, potentially ending on a 3-game winning streak against the bad guys up north, the Minnesota Vikings. Justin Fields will not play in this upcoming Sunday's game. Put a little asterisk on it, 99% chance of not playing in this upcoming Sunday's game due to being placed on the COVID list after testing positive. He only has a couple days. He has to do a bunch of different tests. He has to have a bunch of things passed. So very unlikely he's going to play. Andy Dalton is the starter. Tony is thrilled about that. But I want to give a quick shout out to Justin Fields real fast, is that his leadership was truly on point in the interview right before he was put on the list. The reason why he was going to play, even with an injury, he wanted to play with some of his teammates that he might not play with again while with the Chicago Bears. So good for him. That's the leadership that we need. Andy Dalton taught him that. I'm just throwing that out there to tick off Tony. That's all I wanted to say that for. You can see his face. It's totally straight. But anyway, Akiem Hicks, potential last game of ripping up Dalvin Cook in a Bears uniform. And at the end of a painful yet kind of hopeful season for the future, finally comes to an end. Some news on Ryan Pace, Tony will go over. But Tony, if you could describe the 2021-2022 season in 3 words, how would you describe it?
I would definitely describe it as embarrassing, disappointing, and Arlington. Those are the 3 words I'd probably use if I had to do 3 separately. If I wanted to do a phrase, though, I would probably use please clean house. And that leads us perfectly into the offense. So the last time that we played against Minnesota, we lost 17-9. It was one of the best defensive games, honestly, we played all year. The heart that the defense came out with. I mean, I haven't seen the Bears like hit like that in forever. It felt like there was something personal, guys. Absolutely something personal against Minnesota. I loved it. So we did lose 17-9. It was a garbage time touchdown at the end of the game. There should have been some, probably 2 touchdowns, I'd say.
Couple red zone chances.
Yeah. The Jimmy Graham one was tough. That's the one I remember specifically. It was kind of tipped, but Justin Fields went 26 of 39 for 285 yards and a touchdown, like we said right at the end. It was probably a top 3 performance. It was a top 3 performance of the season, I'd say. The San Francisco one's up there just because of the rushing yards and whatnot, but I mean, he played well. I know he had 2 fumbles.
It was very close to his Pittsburgh stats. I think that's where you were going with game number 3, but it was San Francisco, Pittsburgh in this game were by far his best games.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Detroit, I know he was decent. It wasn't wow. I actually put that in there, but I kind of take it back. It wasn't wow numbers. And that's kind of what, he should have had better numbers in this game again if it weren't for some drops. But if he definitely passed the eye test in that game, except for the fumbles, but he's a rookie still. I mean, there were some good plays. Cole Kmet ripped it up with 6 catches for 71 yards. Monty did not do as good rushing. It wasn't entirely his fault, I guess. I don't know. It felt like they were really keen on the run for a lot of it. He had 18 carries for 60 yards. The offensive line was just not very good overall, although they only allowed 3 sacks, which is good for the Bears.
Good for the Bears.
I guess that Nick put in that little comment. This is good. It's pretty good for the Bears, and he's right on that. So, yeah, then the fumbles and drops. There were 6 drops in that game. 6, I'd say at least 4 of them were like, a third down, converting a first down, whatever it was. There was a Demir Bird out route right in the red zone. Then there was also there was one that was kind of going the other way kind of early on in the game, and it was a mess. But Andy Dalton will be starting, I guess, so whatever. It's literally a meaningless game, and hopefully it's the last time Andy Dalton's wearing a Bears uniform. I'd accept him as a backup, a cheap backup. Okay. I'd accept him as a cheap backup, but he should never, unless there is injury or death to Justin Fields, practice with the ones.
So Tony, Tony got pretty dark there. That's all we're going to go with that. But anyway,
we think
Justin Fields is going to be fine. We think that is the only 2 options. Again, Andy Dalton, I think, was just in a weird situation with the Chicago Bears overall. I mean, no offensive line, horrible play caller. I think if he would have had a guy like Kellen Moore that he had in Dallas, in Chicago with the talent that he has in Chicago, I think things would have worked out a lot better for Andy Dalton, but they would have been even better for Justin Fields. So again, we're going to be talking about coaches coming up here soon because this is Matt Nagy's last game as the Chicago Bears head coach. But I'm excited for the offense to go against, again, a bad Minnesota secondary. They're not playing for anything. They're probably going to be sitting some of their starters as well, such as Harrison Smith. I don't see him playing because he is becoming a seasoned veteran. I mean, I think he's playing the league now for over a decade at this point. But the dude's still a hard hitter out of Notre Dame. Always loves to hit Bears wide receiver. I know, Tony, I saw a little fist bump. But yes, so Andy Dalton will get the start, but you could see Nick Foles if something goes wrong. And honestly, that's what I'm looking forward to. I want to see who should be the backup for the Chicago Bears next year. And also Nick Foles could get some trade value. So going into the defense, though,
Beep. Breaking news alert. The injury report has dropped. Akiem Hicks is listed as out for the game.
Wow.
He's the only one listed as out.
As a Bear.
Yep. So that I'm still going to say all the stuff I wrote about him. I hope everyone knows that because I just want to rip on Dalvin Cook. So we'll get to that. I'll adjust a little bit on the fly there, but
so
wow.
Perfect. That perfectly goes right into what we were going to talk about. And that would be the defense. So the defense against Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook and the Minnesota Vikings at Soldier Field a couple weeks back. Again, arguably their best game of the season against a pretty high-powered offense. Cousins only had 87 passing yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. Those 2 touchdowns, thanks for the penalties, referees. You guys rock and hate the Bears in regards to that aspect. So Kirk Cousins had his worst game of the season against the Chicago Bears, arguably. The guy that was leading top 5 in the league in passing yards couldn't even make it over 100 yards.
And we had our backup, not even like our second string.
Our
DBs
practice squad secondary was in there with a rookie that has never played in an
string. Yeah.
Well, it all worked out in our favor because again, we got to see Thomas Graham Jr., how much of a clown Matt Nagy is for not putting him out there. But again, you had some veterans that you had on the side. You had to make that decision. But now the Bears know that's one more thing that they don't have to draft or worry about in the draft next year. If Thomas Graham Jr. continues to strong play, which he has. But okay, so going back, Dalvin Cook was 28 carries for 89 yards. Akiem Hicks did not want anything to do with that guy. He wanted to make sure that he stood on the ground, looked in his face. I don't understand the beef, and I would love for Akiem Hicks to either come on and explain it, or it could just be because it's Bears Vikings and someone has to have the rivalry there. So if you have him on fantasy this week for Dalvin Cook wise, all I have to say is I would not play him because he just doesn't do super well against the Bears, knock on wood. That's a historic statement. Not even trying to jinx anything, not trying to say anything with over ego or overconfidence. He just doesn't do well against the Bears. So if you have him, and also they're probably not going to play him either because he has had injuries this year. A meaningless game. Don't expect a lot of these big names to be out there. But that's also, thinking about it, Tony, as we've been talking about this, I kind of like that Akiem Hicks is out because that is a sign of either the Bears are thinking of keeping him and don't want him hurt for next year. Just thinking optimistic here. I would love for Akiem Hicks to come back. Ryan Pace, when we get it to him in a little bit, could have a little bit of a decision in that. But it looks like from the injury report, Hicks didn't practice at all this week. So maybe he is actually seriously injured. But anyway, just optimism. They could be sending him out. He'd be out there if he could. But going back to the defensive stats, we only allowed 5 third-down conversions on 17 attempts and stopped the only 4th-down attempt by the Minnesota Vikings. 2 of the sacks came from Akiem Hicks and then one from Robert Quinn. And I believe the last one was Bilal Nichols or Travis Gibson. Don't quote me on that. But again, 4 sacks for the Bears against the Minnesota Vikings, who have a decent offensive line, arguably. You got to have a good line in order to have one of the best rushers in the league and have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So defense is looking good. Akiem Hicks will be out. Unfortunately, Duke Shelley is also questionable for that game. And I did see Robert Quinn had a shoulder injury and he is questionable for this upcoming game. So stay tuned for that. Eddie Goldman is also listed as questionable. But before we jump into our 3 keys to the game for you guys, we would love to thank our sponsor, Lou Malnati's. Lou Malnati's, a true Chicago classic established in 1971. I don't know if you can hear my voice is my mouth's watering right now, but look at that. Oh, a thing of beauty. If that was art, it would be worth more than the Mona Lisa. Nothing gets better than the Chicago deep dish. Download the Lou Malnati's app today and get points for every single one of your orders. Whenever you order pizza, wings, cookies, salad, or anything, you get points, and eventually you get that all for free, folks. So stay tuned for that. Tony, which one are you having today? I'm having, I did a custom pizza. That's what's also great about the app. Low fat cheese, trying to watch the figure, going to Arizona in a couple weeks here, but double sliced tomato, extra sausage and garlic. So I pretty much evened out the whole low-fat cheese thing. But Tony, end of the season on a high note, win or loss, it's delicious deep dish pizza. Which one did you order today?
I always have to go with the Chicago classic. That buttered crust is just like, it's heaven. I don't even know how else to do it. It is just, or how else to say it. It's amazing. The sausage, incredible. So it's just, it's sausage, cheese, sauce, butter crust. That's what it is. It is delicious. It's my favorite food in the world. It is my favorite type of food. I know, Nick, you're like, oh, switch it up. He was saying, it's too good. That's all. It's just too good.
So, and what's hilarious, folks, is that Lou Malnati's actually just shot me a message in the middle of this episode. Just want to show that real fast. Lou Malnati's blue check mark and all. Just want to give you guys a quick shout out for an awesome season. We've really enjoyed working with you guys. It has been an absolute pleasure. You guys, win or lose, there's always lose. And we truly cannot thank you guys enough for creating arguably the just anything. When you come to Chicago, first thing you're thinking of is Lou Malnati's Pizza, then the Chicago Bears, especially with how the Bears have played this past year. But Bears win, 3-game winning streak on the way potentially. Make sure you get Lou Malnati's. And if they lose, a little bit of comfort food, nothing can go wrong. Download the app today. But let's go into our 3 keys of the game. Tony, what do you got?
Yeah, so I took it a little differently. I went with just 3 things I want to see, because it doesn't, like, obviously I want to beat the Vikings. Doesn't really matter if we do. So what I have, this was also before the Akiem Hicks thing, so this is what I was talking about with just keep embarrassing Dalvin Cook, because it's funny. I don't like Roquan Smith hates him too. I don't know if you remember that as well.
He does.
He was like when Akiem Hicks wasn't swallowing him up, Roquan Smith was just standing him up at the line with just vicious hits, and it was absolutely gorgeous, just hunting him down all day. And I love it. Just keep embarrassing Dalvin Cook, because he is one of the best players. I think that beef came from, I think Dalvin Cook was basically really cocky. I think it was maybe from when he was on the Saints, oh yeah, we can run all over him, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh yeah, you can run. And then he just hasn't since. Beautiful. Second thing I want to see, get after Kirk Cousins. That's all. It's also funny just watching Kirk Cousins. Like we said, he had 30 touchdowns, 5 picks coming into, I think it was that first game. And then that duck he threw because the receiver ran the wrong route. And it was just like a weather balloon just up in there. It's always funny. It used to be when we played Matt Stafford, and it was just, no matter what, we'd stack him 8 times. Kirk Cousins, the new funny guy to make fun of in the NFC North. And my third thing I want to see, this one's more serious. Play the healthy rookies and young players. Obviously, Justin Fields, you can't with COVID, but even if he was injured, I'd just hold him out. But guys like Thomas Graham Jr., I believe Larry Borum seems to be healthy. I haven't seen him on anything. Just play these guys some playing time. Extended preseason. I've been saying it. Extended preseason. No reason not to. Nick, what you got, my man?
So I want to say one thing really fast, and going off your points, Tony, what do you have as your score for the next game?
Ooh,
for this?
Bears 42, Vikings 9. Three field goals.
I'm sorry. You want to repeat that score one more time?
Bears 42, Vikings 9. Book it.
Okay. You know what? I am 2-0 with the score that I'm about to say. Okay. I am 2-0, and I'm going to keep it up. 40-10 Bears. They're 2-0. It's not the score, but when I say that score, the Bears win. So I'm going to start off with that. I got the Bears winning 40-10. They're going to, Andy Dalton's going to want to go on a high note because he's going to want that not backup money next year. So just going to put that out there. And also,
that's analytics right there. That's what that is. They're 2-0 on this score. That's
analytics.
That's undefeated, baby.
Hey, I'm going to Vegas with that score. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, right.
But let's go into my keys of the game really fast before we talk about Ryan Pace very quickly. My number one is play Daz Newsome. You kind of hit on it, Tony, in regards to playing healthy rookies that, play Daz Newsome and air it out to him as much as possible. See if he is worth keeping on the roster for next year, because your only for-sure wide receiver is Darnell Mooney. You have Daz Newsome. He flashes against Harrison Smith in the Minnesota Vikings defense. NFC North rival. He has a 100-yard game with 2 touchdowns. Guess who? We got wide receiver number 2 right there already. Taller, fast, like him a lot. Great story too. He started the season off injured, then went to the practice squad. Now he's got a chance to really get out there and shine, just like Thomas Graham Jr., who we also wanted to be on the active roster at the beginning of the season. My number 2 is don't give up any stupid penalties or penalties as a whole. Bears had 9 penalties for 91 yards, and a lot of that changed the pace of the game in their 17-9 loss at Soldier Field. We hate seeing that. Go out there, Play clean football and let Kirk Cousins make the mistake, not you guys. Finally, play tight on all Minnesota targets. I mean, I don't know if Jefferson's going to end up playing. I hope he does, so I need him for fantasy, but play tight on all targets, and especially the tight end. I just got to throw that out there because Tony loves the tight end position. The front seven can handle Dalvin Cook and Kirk Cousins if they play. That's even without Akiem Hicks. They can handle him. But see who in the secondary is worth keeping. Obviously, Thomas Graham Jr., but now you have the question of Eddie Jackson, who will be a captain this upcoming Sunday. But you know, Tayshaun Gibson Sr., is he going to come back? I think he should. I think he's a valuable veteran to the team. I think Thomas Graham Jr. was really the missing piece to this the secondary and the defense. And Jalen Johnson apparently is off the COVID list, and he will be back for this upcoming Sunday's game. Highly unlikely. I see him playing a lot, though. They're probably going to shut him down as well. So, Tony, very quickly, news on Ryan Pace before we close out.
Yeah, so, all right, everyone. This isn't Ian Rappaport. This isn't Adam Schefter. This was on the Irish Bears podcast. Got to give, credit where credit's due. They had on a guy from the Bears blog, and he said that both Nagy and Pace will be fired. I didn't listen to it. I just saw a tweet. Sounds like he has a source that he claims. I'm not going to say whether he's right or wrong because I don't know. None of us know yet. So if he is right,
how would I know? I don't even know how to source either. Shout out to Rocco.
Shout out Rocco and Jack. Yep,
and Jack.
Keeping it
light, keeping it loose.
If he is right, credit us for telling you. If he's wrong, though, then all the blame goes on him because then he was wrong. So just don't shoot the messenger, but definitely give the messenger credit if it's right. And when he's fired, hire either James Harris or Theo Epstein. Shout out to there's a guy whose name. Nick, say something.
Just want to put that out there. This is me saying something, but we are going to do a pregame. We're going to do a post-game review after the game, but we want to thank everybody for all your viewership over the season. It has been absolutely fantastic getting to meet a lot of you through the comments, following us on Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. We really appreciate it. We're excited to keep this going for next year. We already have big plans coming up, so stay tuned for that. And look out for us on Spotify. We will be on Spotify in the next coming months. I know a lot of people have been like, hey, if you're on there, we'll be able to listen a lot easier. So stay tuned for that. But from the bottom of our hearts, thank you very much. Tony, who is the source that you were looking for while I needed to speak?
This was about he said hire James Harris from the Cleveland Guardians now, not the Cleveland Indians anymore. I'd like the out of the box hire idea. That is at Please Talk to Me 1. I'm sorry you didn't get the original, that you had to add a 1. Shout out you.
Wow.
68 followers. Give them a follow.
I wonder how they do in their dating game. Please talk to me.
He had some good points under I think he was all under that tweet. So shout out that guy. Keep it up.
All right. Well, again, thank you everyone very much for a great season. We will be back Sunday evening to talk about the Bears versus Vikings, and we will probably be back Monday with the official Matt Nagy news. Excuse me, that Lumalnati's is talking. Thank you again, Lumalnati's and Stupid Cartray, for a great season. But with that, thank you very much for joining this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Brody, joined alongside my good friend and co-host Tony Sapita. We'll see you guys on Sunday.